welcome to Voices of Wisdom. I am Kira Schaefer, and I am so excited to have you back with us for another episode. I get today the honor, the privilege, the wonderfulness to introduce to you Herby Fabius. Herby is absolutely one of the most solid, generous, connecting, honoring people that I have met in a very long time. He is committed to helping people be successful in their life. And and he's very promoting, but also I got this book. He did this children's book with his two sons, and he is just advancing the world in so many good, empowering, and loving ways. And I am so grateful that I get to be with him today. And he is going to be talking to us about fear. So let me bring him on. Drum roll, please. Welcome, Herby Fabius.
Hello.
Hey, Herby.
How are you?
Doing so good. I am so good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here, ready to go. Hopefully everybody's ready to go as well, and we'll get into it.
That sounds awesome. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I am. I'm an author. I've published a number of books, as Kira just showed you, children's book I wrote with my kids, and I've written business books. I'm also an entrepreneur. I have a couple different platforms that I've created. I have an interview platform where I interview entrepreneurs and authors. I get their story and how they started, and then I share that story to help, inspire others to start their business and pretty much whatever it is that they're trying to do. My goal is to try to get them started.
Yeah. And I've had the honor of being interviewed on your platform, and it has just been so wonderful. You have such amazing questions that really help us hone in and get clear. Even just answering some of those questions as an entrepreneur helps us get just more clear about what it is that we do and what it is we offer. So thank you so much, Herby. I'm going to let you take it away. I am so excited for this talk.
In here. Let's go.
All right, do it.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. As Kira said, I am Herby Fabius, and I am an author. I have published 3 books. I am an introvert. I like to be by myself. I get my energy from being alone. And I am an entrepreneur. I have started a couple of different platforms. I have an interview platform called billionsuccess.com, where I interview entrepreneurs and authors, and I share their story. The goal here is because I think we can all learn from each other's stories. So I share these stories to help other people get started. I also have a web design service that I offer, billionshosting.com, where I tend to focus on the people who have not started yet. And I try to give them a platform to kind of help them get going, right? So if you're an author and you need to sell your books and you need an e-commerce, whatever it is, even if you need a simple blog, we can help you get that going. So aside from those 2 things, I have a number of failed projects, number of things that I've worked on that just didn't work out. We're talking from tech startups to half-finished books to things that I've never published, and also a long list of things that have never seen the light of day. Right now, you might be asking yourself, why work on so many things if you weren't going to publish it, if nobody was going to know about them? Well, that wasn't the plan. I thought that I was going to share it. I thought it was going to be great and everybody was going to love it. But this 4-letter word almost, stopped me from doing what I had to do. So that's fear. We're talking about fear, right? And we're talking about the fear of making a mistake, the fear of judgment from other people, friends, family, strangers, you name it. So the fear of not being good enough, which is where you get your the imposter syndrome, where you don't feel like you know enough to talk about it. So fear was the decision maker for me in the beginning when I started doing this. And it was making all the wrong decisions. So I knew something had to be done. And as I created all these things, somehow I convinced myself that I can create these things in secret, right? And then somehow people will magically find out about it and start buying it, or I don't know what I thought. So it's almost like the movie, like if you build it, they will come. And we all know that's not how business works. It's they will not come. So and as for fear, we're not talking about actual danger here. There's no real danger here. Nothing's going to happen to me. Nothing's going to happen to you. But yet, this fear is stopping us from being great. So I am. You maybe you can't tell. I am 6'6" and 260 pounds. Right. I'm really 280 pounds, but I've been manifesting 260 for the past 2 months. So we will say 260. Let's put that in the universe that I am 260. 280. Okay. Now, so I'm a big guy. There's not much that I'm afraid of, but somehow I couldn't bring myself to do the things that I had to do to grow my business because I was afraid that people were going to judge it and they're going to say that I'm not good enough for it. And I think I always had this fear, even as a teen. I think as I was younger, I didn't see it more clearly because when you're young, there's not a whole lot that you're trying to accomplish, right? You just want to have fun. And as you get older, the list of goals that you have that you're trying to accomplish, it's a very long list. And if your fear is stopping you from even trying these things, then you have a problem. And so I think I carried that fear to adulthood, right? So as I started, and we're talking 2013, so it is, the year 2013 is when I began this journey. And as I started, so many things that I want to accomplish, and none of it are getting done the right way. So I knew it was something that had to be dealt with. So that was a little bit about me. Now let's talk about why I chose fear as a topic. Now, what was it? The quote that Steve Jobs said: "You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect it looking backwards." So now that I'm here, I can see clearly that fear was the number one problem for me. And also, I'm talking about this topic because if I had this problem, I know for sure other people are having this problem as well. And either they had it or they're going through it right now, or whether they want to admit it or not, I think we all have some sort of fear. And so this is why I'm talking about this. And this is episode 6. I've had 5 speakers before me, and I've seen all episodes, and I can guarantee you everyone either mentioned the word fear or had said something related to it, right? So fear to me is the silent dream killer, right? It kills your dreams. That's just what it does. And it's the fear of taking a chance. It's the fear of not trying, because most of us don't even try. If you have something that you're trying to do right now, you're ahead of the curve. Most of us won't even try it because we're afraid of something that could be different from like you can make up all kinds of excuses in your head to why you're not doing it, but at the bottom, at the core, is you're afraid of something. So as for me, and I want to keep it focused on me and my story, so maybe you guys can learn from this. All I wanted to do was to start a business and have an online presence, have something that I can, take care of my family with. And it wasn't so much about money. It's more of a freedom seeking type journey. It's more of having more time, because I think ultimately that's what we are all trying to do, is get more time. We want more of our time back. And I remember in the beginning, I thought of it in 2 ways, right? I thought, okay, I can start a business. Everyone else is doing it, especially an online business, right? So there's only 2 parts to it. You create something, and then you sell what you create. It's not so hard. And that's what I thought. And for me, the creating part has always been easy, right? I mean, I don't want to say easy to make it sound like, but it's always been kind of easy for me to create something. I can just think something in my mind, and I'm just one YouTube video away from learning how to do it, right? So I go to YouTube University, like I always tell people. So I would go hop on YouTube and learn it. And then next thing you know, 20 minutes later, it's done. So the creating part has been easy for me. The selling part, the promoting, the marketing, the being in the front line, in front of the camera, promoting this has always been the tough part. Because and as you know, that is the more important part, right? That is the more important part. And that was a problem for me, because I was afraid of, I'm going to say something weird and people don't like the way I sound or whatever it is that I make up in my mind. I'm coming up with all kinds of excuses to why I should not do it because I was afraid. And so that's something that had to be dealt with. And because of that fear, none of the things that I did had any chance of working out. So it had to be dealt with. And just so you understand exactly what it is that I like, how deep it was, I'm going to share a couple of examples to show you what the fear was like for me. Number one, I remember working on a blog post, right? Because back then it was all content. And if you want some traffic back to your site, the first thing you need some content. You need to, write some content and promote it and try to get some organic traffic back to make some sales. And so I did just that. I started writing blog posts and doing all of that. And I find myself going through a process. Every time I had to publish a post, I had to go through a process to do so, which is crazy. Now that I think about it. And I remember specifically, I worked on a blog post. I spent days working on this blog post, right? And it's full of great information, and anybody who would find it useful. And when it was finally done for me to publish it, I paused. I couldn't publish it because publishing it means someone might see it. And if they see it, maybe there's a typo. Maybe there's something that's going to drive me crazy. And so it was always a process. I always did manage to get myself to publish and do these things, but the process to do that, it's usually like a couple of weeks later that I'll publish it. And I didn't want to have to deal with that process every single time. And so publishing it is a process. Once it's finally published, promoting it, sharing it on Facebook, social media, Twitter, Instagram, all that, that's another process that I have to go through, because that means if I share it on Facebook, now they're definitely going to see it. So it's not perfect. I know it's not perfect. And so that's example number one. Something had to be done. Example number two, I always wanted to have a podcast. I always wanted to start a podcast. Back then, I think the podcast was hot and everybody was doing it. And I thought having a podcast was the best way to promote what I was doing. And of course, I went to YouTube University. I learned how to do all my connections. I bought all my equipment and I'm ready to go. And I convinced myself not to do it, right? Because my voice don't sound right, because my accent is not good enough, or whatever it is that I created in my mind, it never happened. Okay. Now that's example number two. Example number three, which is where things really started to get more clearer for me, and that I find a way to kind of hack that system, right? To hack that fear of judgment, the fear of making a mistake. And so I always wanted to write a book. And I thought being an author was the best thing ever. And so I remember thinking, how am I going to write a book if writing a simple blog post is a process? How am I going to promote this thing? So I remember thinking, maybe there's a way that I can, maybe there's a topic that I can write about. Maybe that would make it easier for me to go through that process. And so I decided my first book was going to be about mistakes. It's called Business Lessons. And it was about mistakes. So it's about sharing how it's okay to make a mistake. And if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. Nobody's going to care. And you move on to the next thing. And that's what the book is about. And to my surprise, because I wrote about mistakes, because I was telling everybody how it's okay to make a mistake, and I knew the book wasn't going to be perfect. I knew it had, it was going to have a lot of mistakes in it. It was the first time I wrote a book, and I didn't hire anybody to do this. I did it myself from A to Z. And so, to my surprise, it was easier to promote this. I remember this. I was very excited about this one. I wrote it. I published it. I promoted it on Facebook. I promoted it everywhere. I was telling anybody that I can that I have a book. Go buy it. Go review it, and go do this. And I even sent it to my email newsletter, which I've never done. So you see, because I was talking about mistakes and how it's okay, and it's okay that it's not perfect, it was easier for me to promote it. It was easier for me to do this. And so from then on, it's been me using stuff like this, techniques like this, to get to where I'm trying to get to and not let fear decide of what I'm doing. So we've talked about, I've given you a few examples about me, a few examples of what fear did to me. Now let's talk about what is fear exactly. What is it? Well, I'm not a brain. I don't know exactly what happens in the brain when you fear something, when you're afraid. But I do know it's the brain protecting us. It's a protective shield. It's there to help us not get hurt or hurt others, right? So it's a good thing. So fear is a good thing. It's the human species would probably not survive as long as we did if it wasn't for fear. So it's the brain telling us that we're not ready. We're not prepared enough. We need more practice. So we're not ready. And as you know, in the case of being an entrepreneur and author, you're never ready to start a business. You just have to do it. If you're gonna wait till you're ready, it'll never be done. So there's a large number of fears. There's all types. Yeah. So there's the, I don't know, fear of water, fear of heights, fear of blood, and fear of germs, dogs. There's all kinds, and they have all kinds of medical names for these fears, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce here because that would be a mistake. So, but what I see two ways. It's two ways I look at it. I look at, the danger part of it and the made up danger part of it. Like, is there real danger here, or am I just making this up in my mind? So that's what I try to look at. Of course, the real dangerous stuff, the snakes and the heights, of course, there's a possibility that things can go completely wrong and you can hurt yourself and someone else can get hurt. This stuff we're not playing with. Luckily for us, entrepreneurs and authors, we don't have to deal with the real dangerous stuff in most cases. So we're dealing with the made up stuff, right? The stuff that we're making up that is not real. And maybe there's a life experience, something that you've experienced, a friend, a family member, or somebody that have a life experience that made you afraid of something. Foxy talked about trauma, right? Maybe there's some sort of trauma in your life that is making you afraid of something. I mean, those are real stuff. So like I said, lucky for us, that is not the case here. And a good quote that, about fear that I think goes well with this is, it says, what is this? I forgot who said it. It said, fear is false evidence appearing real, right? So in my case, that was exactly what it was. It wasn't no real danger. It was just false evidence. So we talked about what is fear. So let's see, what are we afraid of? What are we afraid of? In my case, and I think it's a lot of people can agree with this, it's the fear of the unknown. You are afraid of what you don't know. As simple as that. So if you're afraid of what you don't know, what is the thing that you can do? Maybe you can educate yourself on that topic. Go to YouTube, research it. The more you know, the less the fear. Because the point here, I don't think it's to overcome fear. I think it's to minimize it. We have to minimize it to the point where it's not an issue. It's not blocking you from doing what you must do. So the fear of the unknown. We're scared we're afraid of what we don't know. So you educate yourself for that. And then you have the fear of judgment from people, right? From friends, family, strangers, that's a crazy one, right? To be afraid of a stranger judging you, someone who you don't even know. But it's true. So the fear of making a mistake, the fear of messing up. But the one thing that we don't talk about much is the fear is self-judging. Yeah, because you're doing all the judging yourself. Most of the judging that's happening, you're doing it to yourself. It's not your friends, it's not your family, it's not the strangers. You're doing most of the judging yourself because you want to be perfect, and that is impossible. And so we judge ourselves more than others judge us, and then that's where you get your imposter syndrome, where you're not good enough to do. Who are you to talk about this, and who are you to start this business, and who are you to write about this and publish a book? So the fear of failure is the other thing that we're afraid of, and the fear of success. Yes, it's a real thing. Some of us are afraid that this thing that we've been working on might actually work out, and and that is a problem. So now let's see where we are. We've talked about why we're afraid, right? And this, I want everybody to understand what I'm doing is mostly based on my experience. So now let's talk about some of the things that I did to kind of overcome. I don't like the word overcome when it comes with fear, because I don't think you fully overcome. I think you minimize it to where it's not an issue, but you don't completely go fearless. I don't think that's possible. So because when we talk about fear, you say overcome and conquer, right? And what I hear is a fight, because you're always fighting. You conquer. You're always fighting. It's always going on. So how do you minimize this fear? Well, for me, a couple of things I had to do. I had to know and understand what the fear is. Why am I afraid of doing this? It's nothing here. Nobody's going to get hurt. You assess the risk, right? Danger or no danger? No danger. Okay. So what is the problem? So you have to understand that it's the brain playing tricks on us. You have to understand that you need to stop focusing on other people, stop focusing on things that you can't control, and start focusing on yourself, and know that it's all about control, right? So the fear is about controlling yourself. So if you're able to control yourself and not give in into those fears, then you should be all right. And if you, like I said, if you have something that you're trying right now, you're ahead of the curve. Most people won't even try. So clap. So the goal here is always to minimize fear. Understand why you fear. And the fear of perfection. And I think, who was it that talked about perfection? I think Shelly, right? From episode 4. So the fear of perfection. We all want to be perfect. We all want to be validated, right? We all want validation from other people. And you are not alone here. We are all feel the same way. And I'll give you a quick example from Oprah. Oprah said I've interviewed over 30,000 people from all over the world, from presidents to world leaders to celebrities to average, you name it, she's done it. And she said everyone had one thing in common. Out of all the interviews, everyone had one thing in common. And do you know what that thing was? After each interview, when it was done, when the cameras go off, everybody asked the same questions. How was that? How did I do? Do you think they're going to like it? So you see, it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter who we are. We are all seeking the same thing. We're all seeking perfection and validation from other people. And I think that's the core of our fears, because we want others to like us. And so we have to understand that we tend to underestimate our abilities, and then we tend to overestimate everyone else's abilities. So these are all things that you have to constantly remind yourself when you're faced of fear or something that's holding you back from starting from doing whatever it is that you want to do. And we talked about how it's about controlling. So it's about making decisions. It's about making decisions. And you have to be able to make the decisions that you want to make and not let fear drive those decisions. You're in the driver's seat, not your fears. So, And when it comes to decision making, I think you have to make quick decisions, and you have to do it so fast so that there's not enough time to overthink. If you start overthinking things, then that's how things don't get done. And I'll give you another example that I just recently learned from Jeff Bezos, the Amazon guy, right? He said they asked him, with Amazon being so huge, and he must be, having to make 100 million decisions a day, and how does he manage to make all these decisions? And he said it's in two categories. So he has the reversible categories, and then you have the non-reversible category. So when someone comes at him with a question, if he has to make a decision, in his mind, he'll say, okay, is this reversible or is it not reversible? If it's reversible, let's go ahead and do it, right? So it's quick decisions. It's not taking the time to overthink things that doesn't need that brain power, right? And then you have the things that are non-reversible. These are the things that if they go wrong, there might really be a huge problem here in the company. So you have to be able to make the difference, reversible or non-reversible. And lucky for us, most of the things that we deal with on a daily basis are reversible. So it doesn't require a whole lot of brain power to just make that quick decisions. Like I said, there's no real danger here. Nobody's going to get hurt. So it's important to make quick decisions. So he had two categories, but I have three. So the third one for me is living with it. Are you able to live with that decision that you just made? So reversible, non-reversible, and living with it. So because even though, if you make a decision, you have to be able to live with it 5 years from now. Or if you make a decision, or if you didn't make a decision, because not making a decision is also a decision, right? So if you didn't make that decision, are you able to live with it, a year, 2 years from now? So I have three categories of making decisions. So quick decisions is important. Action is important to minimize, right? And if all else fails, you take it slow. Do small steps. Take small actions. Find someone to hold you accountable for what it is you're trying to accomplish. Tell people what you're doing. Join a group. Join a mastermind group. Join like-minded entrepreneurs and authors, and so you need someone to hold you accountable to do what you say you're going to do. That's pretty much all it is. It's doing what you say you're going to do. So we've looked at that, and now, so after all of this, not what? Now to begin, if anything from this talk, what I want is, if anybody had issues with fear, anything that stopped them from starting anything that they want to start, whether that's writing a book or starting a YouTube channel, podcast, you name it, whatever it is that you're trying to do, if you have this fear that it's not good enough and you can't talk about it, and I'm telling you, you can absolutely talk about it. We all have a story to share. We all have something to do, and we just have to get down and do it. So how do you do that? Well, first, I think you need a map, right? You can't get anywhere without a map. So create some sort of map of where you are, where you're trying to go, and how you're going to get there. So you have a map. Seeing is believing. You see it every single day. If you have a whiteboard, put it on that board so you can see it every single day, and then you take it each step at a time. And also, education is another piece that you need to look into. If you don't know enough about it and you don't feel confident enough about it, then teach yourself about it. That's what YouTube is here for. Is you can always learn it. And if you can't find it on YouTube, now I think it's your job to create it. Because if you're looking for it and you can't find it, then obviously it needs to be created, because other people might have the same issues that you're having. And so be honest with yourself. Don't make excuses to why you're not doing it, because we all know, people like to say, I don't have enough time, and I don't have enough money, or whatever the excuse that you're making. But at the very core, it's because you're afraid. You're afraid that if you invest this money and start this thing, you might lose it. You're afraid that if you spend the time working on this, you might end up losing all your time. So it's all fear at the very core. You're afraid that what you're doing is not good enough. So it's very simple. To simply put, it's do what you say you're going to do. That's the simple way that I can put it. Because I really don't think it's not really an education problem. I think you've read the books. I think you've listened to the podcast. You've seen all the videos, right? You've watched all the videos on YouTube. I mean, if you're passionate about it, obviously, you read the books, you listened to the podcast, you've seen the videos, like you've done all the things that you need to do. Like, you know enough about it. There's only one thing left to do now, is to actually do it. And the only thing that's stopping you is your fear. So this is why I chose to talk about fear, because it almost stopped me from being the superhero that I am. And we are all superheroes. And I think it's time for us to step in and really understand, because sometimes the brain is there to help us, but we do have to step in sometimes and say, like, hey, brain, I know you're afraid, but as I see it, there's no real danger here. So we're doing this thing, right? So so that's where I'm at. That's my talk. And what is that? Oh, you're talking to me, it seems like. Well, yeah. I think we all yeah, superheroes, right? Yeah. I think we are all I think we are all superheroes, and we just have to step in and do what we need to do.
That's right. That was incredible. I'm like, I am okay. I've got pages of notes. Like, this is no joke. I have pages of notes here. Okay, first of all, you're 6'6".
I am. You can't tell, but I am.
You are a superhero.
Yeah.
This was so good. So please ask questions, because I'm going to keep here a little bit longer, Herby, because
Absolutely.
I am like, I want to pick your brain. So please ask questions. Carolyn's saying thank you for sharing. We had so many great comments. We had a great comment that's really amazing. It's universe is in good hands. We're in a unified field of energy, moving toward perfection. Things are working out for us in our favor. I love that super amazing spiritual approach to life. And I hope that is working for that person that said that. And I know that works, that there is things in our energetics in our world that are working in our favor, kind of behind the scenes too. So I appreciate that. You said we underestimate our abilities and overestimate others' abilities. This is so true. This is so true. You are like so quotable, dude. Like, seriously.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's like I said, it's the one to be perfect all the time. And I think, who was it that mentioned this? Was it Shelley?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's one to be perfect all the time, and being judged by other people. And I'm telling you, some people might be judging you, but most people are not.
Yeah.
Because you're doing all the judging. You're doing enough judging for yourself. So for me, that was always a problem. And like I said, it was always a process every single time. And as you know, you cannot build a business having to go through that process every single time. And for me, it was, the blog posting and being in front of the camera like this and things like that. But for someone else, it might be something else. But you do have to be honest with yourself to know that, you know what, I have this fear and I have to find a way to hack it, like I said.
And I believe that you really told us how to do that. As far as, I wrote it down, create a map, get educated, be really honest with yourself, Don't make those excuses. I mean, I'm hearing this. I'm resonating. Do what you say you're going to do. Just follow through.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think a lot of times people think it's an education issue, right? Right now, at the point that I am right now in my business, I've done so much progress in the past 6 months that I've never done before. And all of that is not because I discovered something new. I did not discover anything new. It's just one thing that I'm doing. I'm just doing what I say I'm going to do. That's it. If you do what you say you're going to do, it will work out, because we know exactly what needs to be done. If you, like I said, you've done all the research, you've read the books, you listen to the podcast, you watch the videos, you know what to do. You just have to do it. That is the only difference.
Ah, man. Yes. So a question that came up for me, came from the very beginning. So let's say you don't have any fear. When do you, and there's no kind of things happening psychologically or physically or anything like that. Let's say all that's gone. When do you know when it's time to let go of a project that just doesn't seem to be working out?
Okay. Yeah, that can be hard. A lot of times we get attached to something and we say we're passionate about it and we're passionate about this and we don't want to let it go. It's very hard to kind of let go. But what I think you should do, not so much of letting go, but more of pivoting. I think you need to pivot into something else. It could still be the overall vision you had, but in a different way. I think it's more, you have to think about pivoting. If this is not working out, okay, fine. It's not working out. Let's pivot into this. It's still the same thing you had in mind, but in a different form.
I love that. Let's see if there are any questions anybody has. Please come out. Please let us know. One thing. Let's see. Foxy's saying I have notes too. Yes. Yes. I got to go through these for sure. Linda is saying well said. Janae, she's saying I love what you say. Do what you say you're going to do. I started a Facebook page, a YouTube channel, a website. So by default, I have said that I am providing related materials. So I need to do it. So it's kind of putting yourself in the position where you have to follow through.
Have to follow through. Yeah. And that's why accountability is key. So if you have someone or if you have, you can join a group. I know you have quite a bit of groups that are helping people, and we all help each other, and then we do what we say we're going to do, and everybody wins. That's
right. Well, that's what I had to do with our first book that we ever published, As You Wish Publishing, called Happy Thoughts Playbook. I enlisted several friends to help me with to collaborate on this book, and being at the helm, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I was just failing forward as much as possible, as often as possible. And what I found was that I knew that those people that were contributing were depending on me.
Yeah.
And so putting yourself in a position where you are being dependent upon, you have to do it, even if it's not perfect, even if it sucks, even if you don't do it right. And it still worked out really well. And I think that if I didn't have those people surrounding me in it, it would have been way more challenging. So Absolutely. This is perfectly said, Herby. You're so good. Let me just hold on. Let's see. Okay, so I asked that question. Does anybody else have any questions? Let's see. Colleen, let's see what she's saying here. Also, ideas can get tired when it's long term. Sometimes you have to retreat a bit and do something a little different for a while and sit with your intentions. That's a good point. Yeah,
absolutely.
Reevaluation. Do you ever do that? Do you take a project or any of the projects that you're working on and just go, okay, let's see if my heart's really in this still, and what do I want to do with it differently?
Absolutely. I have actually BillionSuccess.com, the interview platform that I have. Yeah. I started that from scratch. I changed my logo. I changed the platform, everything. I completely redesigned it as if it was something new. And because I did that, it gave me that, that fire you get when you get your first idea, and you're like, oh my God, this is gonna make $1 billion, right? so I got that fire back just because I redesigned, I redid the website, and everything was completely new. And sometimes you do have to do that, go backwards so you can go forward. It works.
I love that. I love that. And I did that recently with one of our groups as well. I was like, this isn't resonating. Something's happening. Something's changing. I don't like it. How do I want it to be different? I'm driving the boat. I'm going to keep driving into the rocks, or am I going to drive it somewhere that feels more fun?
No, I hear you. It's a process. We all go through it.
I love this thing from Foxy. It says it seems like it takes a couple of years before things start to fall into place or seem to really take off. How about timing? Tell us about timing. Do you feel like it's just something that happens immediately? I've seen people with overnight success, and then what they're seeing now is complete overnight failure.
Yeah.
What do you have on that for us?
Yeah. So timing. Anything that you try to do, you do have to put some time limits on there, right? And I think, to me, it's only a problem if you're not progressing. If you're not seeing any progress, then maybe it's time to go a different way. Maybe it's time to rethink what you're doing. But if you are seeing progress, I don't care how small the progress is. So what we have to focus on, we tend to focus on the big picture, right? So we're starting this thing and we're trying to get here, and we're not even in the first step yet. That's not what we look at. You're supposed to look at the progress. No matter how small it is, look at the progress. If you're progressing towards that goal, I think you should. I don't think we should focus so much on time. As long as you're progressing, keep going.
I love that. Foxy is asking for links to your books. Do you have an author page on Amazon?
I do. Oh, man. Yeah. So if you look up Herby Fabius, my full name, you should be able to see it. I don't know the exact length. I don't know the exact length. If you look my name up, you should be able to find it.
Okay. All right. Cool. This is what I look like the whole time. I'm like, got a pen in my mouth. I got one in my hair. While you're talking, I'm like, let's just. All right. And it's brilliant.
And I watch everybody's talk. I got quotes from everybody's talk. And Foxy, I am not common. I'm Foxy.
Yeah.
I think Janae had. She talked about. She had a fear of going up the mountains or something. Like she was working out, and Shelly, the perfection, right? It's done is better than perfect, and Anna and everybody, and Bree with the chakras. I've never heard of that word before. Bree.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So you see, we all learn from each other's stories, and then and then we do what we say we're going to do.
Yes, absolutely. I'm just popping up billionsuccess.com. Is there another website you'd like for that, or just Billion Success is where?
Yeah, that's the main site. But I do have, as I told you, I have a web design service that we offer, which is billionhosting.com. And, and like I said, we tend to focus on helping the people who have not started yet. If you already have your site and you got your business and things are working out, then that's great. I tend to try to help the people who have not started yet, because I think they're the ones who need the most help. And I think, as for me, so I'm trying to be what I needed when I was starting. So I'm trying to be that for the people who have not started yet.
I love that. That is a noble cause. And it's Billion, BILLION hosting, HOSTING.com.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just pop that one up here. Okay, cool. Billionhosting.com. Foxy is actually a client of yours as well, and she has had all good things to say about you.
Foxy's great, man.
All right. Herby, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yep.
I greatly appreciate you. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your connection. You have always just been so kind-hearted and promoting and loving with me and with all the people that I bring to you to work with you. You have always been so kind.
All your friends are now my friends.
Yes, I know, right? It's like, oh, we're gonna all be best friends now. Okay.
Right.
Well, Herby, is there anything you would like to leave our friends with?
Anything? Really, it's like I said, my main mission is to get someone to start something. And for every one of us, that something is different, right? Maybe it's a podcast. Maybe it's a YouTube channel. Maybe it's a book. Maybe it's a what? I don't care. I don't care what it is. You want to do it? Start it. And that's what I'm trying to get everybody to do. As it was for me, hopefully from this talk, if anybody had similar issues that I had, hopefully from this talk, starting today, they'll start that thing that they said they were going to do.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you again, Herby, so much for being with us. And thank you and people are still commenting, but can you answer one more question?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, sweet. So Janae is saying, what if you're stagnated? What's happening if you just feel kind of like can't get anything moving?
If you can't get anything moving, I think it goes back to the taking quick action that I talked about. Because a lot of times when you can't get things started and you can't get moving, I think you're in you in content mode, right? You're in consuming mode. So you're consuming all these content, you're consuming all these videos and all these books, you're reading, you're listening to all these podcasts, and they're telling you exactly step by step how to do it, right? So you're in consuming mode. And what you really should be doing is focusing on what you need right now. So there's no need to learning how to start a podcast if you're going to start a podcast a year from now. That's just a waste of time. So focus on what you're doing right now. Right now. So if task number 1 is to write a blog post, write the blog post. Don't worry about the YouTube channel, because that is not what I'm trying to do right now. So I think we tend to focus on too many things at the same time. So focus on the first thing and do it step by step.
Love it. That's so perfect. That's so perfect. Well, Herby, I know you and I are going to have many conversations in the future, and this was absolutely so fun, so informative. You are a wealth of knowledge, and I greatly appreciate you. Thank you guys so much for listening and for being with us. Thank you to Liz Don Donahue at Celebrate Your Life Mishka Productions for providing us also with a platform to help lift voices, help bring people and this information out to the world. I'm so grateful for her. Thank you for the listeners over at Voices of Wisdom in our Voices Wisdom Facebook group. Would love to have you join out there. And everybody who's going to replay this later, that is going to get some good content, good information, and good actionable steps from all of the information that's being brought to you here. So thank you again. I'm Kira Schaefer at Voices of Wisdom. Herby Fabius. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will see you all again tomorrow.